Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Blessing Ebietoma, and in today's tutorial I'll be teaching you how to cut and sew this beautiful Ankara top. If it is something you are interested in, keep watching. You might want to watch to the end of this video because at the end of the video I'll be sharing you the tips I learned during the process of making this top. To make this top, you will need at least 3 yards of Ankara fabric, depending on your size. The one in the style inspiration has 2-step flay, but this one I am making is 1-step flay, and I use 3 yards. So if you want the 2-step flay, you might need at least 4 yards of fabric. First thing first, I am marking out the under bust of my client. After marking out the under bust of my client, the next thing that I'll be doing is to draw a straight line across, and then I'll go ahead to mark the waist of my client, which is also known as the half length. Her half length is 18. I'm going to also mark a straight line across, and then I'm labeling it under bust and waist. Then my client's shoulder is 7.5. You go ahead to mark your shoulder measurement. You come down by 1 for your shoulder slope, and from there you will take your armhole circumference. Ours is 8 inches, so I marked the 8 inches, and then I'm coming down again by 9 inches. 9 inches because I calculated the shoulder slope. Then I will draw a straight line across and label it chest line. Then I'm going to mark the shoulder circumference again, and I will connect the line with the one I measured upwards. After that, I'm going to mark the shoulder slope. The next thing, I'll be marking my client bust measurement. So you go ahead to mark your bust measurement, and then I added 2-inch seam allowance. I marked our under bust measurement. I also added 2-inch seam allowance. Then I marked our waist measurement, and then I added 2-inch seam allowance. Then you go ahead to connect the measurements together, the lines together. Then the next thing I'll be doing is to mark the midpoint of the armhole, and then I will come in by 1/2 inch. After that, I'm going to use my curve rule to connect it from the bust measurements, the midpoint I marked, and then upwards, just like so. So that's our armhole. Now I'm going to extend the half length. For my client's measurement, I extended it by 8 because of she wanted it to be long enough to, at least so it can sit properly on the high waist pants. So depending on how long you want this extension to be, just make sure you mark it out, then you connect it just like this. But I had to reconnect it again. If you notice what I am doing, I shifted my ruler, and then I am connecting it to my 2 inch, like to the waist measurement itself. If I had connected it to the end just like I did first time, when I shape the top, it's not going to be the exact waist measurement. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I decided to mark my slants into the length of my client, like my client's waist, where the waist stops, because when I close it, I don't want the slanted part to become longer. So what I'm doing now is that I am coming in by 1/2 inch again, then I will connect the V again. Just watch what I'm doing. If you notice now, the V part of this top, which is the slanted part, it is now at the measurement, not the seam allowance. So at the end of the day, when I'm done sewing and then I shape that part out, I will still have the part where my client wanted the crop to stop. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Then next thing, I mark my neck circumference and the neck depth, neck width and depth. The width I use is 3.5, and the depth is 4 inches. So I'm just connecting it. So look at, before I cut it out again, I'm still showing you what I'm cutting. I'll be cutting half inch from the main line. Can you see what I'm cutting? So by the end of the day, when I shape this top, the side will not get longer. So for the back, we'll be using a seam allowance of 1.5 inches. So that is going to serve as our zipper allowance. So by the time we are done sewing, we will still have like 1 inch zipper allowance to sew the zip. So as you can see, I drew a straight line across, then I placed the front after the zipper allowance, then I came down by 2 inches for the neck depth. I'm connecting it to the neck width of the front, just like so. Then I will go ahead to cut out the neckline and also cut out the bodies of this top using the front. And then I forgot to mention, aside from Ankara fabric, I glued air stay to the top because I wanted it to have weight, just because Ankara fabric is usually light and this was not 100% cotton, so I had to glue air stay to it. So if you want the same effect, if you are not using a stretchy material, then you might want to glue air stay to yours too. Moving on, as you can see, this is I'm trying to cut out the flay here, and you also saw how I'm placing the Ankara. So go ahead to fold your Ankara just like this. You fold it into 4 and then you fold it again. I'm just drawing a straight line, and from this straight line now I will mark the length of the sleeve. The length I used was 13 inches. I'll go ahead to mark out that part, and then I'm going to connect a curve. I'm not taking any measurement because this sleeve I am cutting is going to be gathered, so there will be a gathers in this upper part, so that's why I'm not taking the circumference. So I'll just go ahead to mark the length of the flay. It's not going to be a 360-degree flay because I don't have enough fabric, so it's 180-degree flay, but because it is large, because I have to gather it looks like 360-degree flay. So after connecting the lines, I'll go ahead to cut it out. And then I'm going to open up the flay and I will open the two sides. So that's why I said it's not a 360-degree flay. And then now I am cutting out the sleeve. So I'll draw a straight line across first. Then after drawing the straight line, I am going to mark the length of my sleeve. But before marking out the length, I marked the bicep line. The bicep line is 4.5 inches, so I'm just marking 4.5 inches and I'm drawing a straight line across. I will mark 4 inches there, and I'm going to divide the 4.5 inches into 2, just like you are seeing. I'm just making sure that it's equal. Then I will measure these parts, the armhole. Then I'm going to mark it here in my bicep line, just like so. I will use my curve rule to connect this place upwards to the half part, the midpoint of the 4.5 inches, and I will also connect it this way with my curve rule. Just pay attention to how I am curving it. You can also use your free hand to cut this sleeve, whatever works for you. Then I'm going to mark my armhole circumference plus 1.5 seam sewing allowance. Just mark out your armhole circumference and add your sewing allowance. Do the same until you get to the end of the sleeve, and then connect the lines. Then you have your sleeve. So next I'm going to cut it out once I am sure the lines are accurate. So I've gone ahead to cut out lining piece for all of the pieces we have, the front, the back, and the flay. The next thing I'll be doing is to use the lining to turn the Ankara fabric. So this is what I'm doing. I will go ahead to use to pin it round, but before then I'm going to use hemming gum for the neckline, because I want the lining to relax. I don't want the lining to start popping out from the neckline. So I will be pinning it down with hemming gum all the way around just the neckline. I also use my pin to hold it down, and I will continue the process for just the neckline. Then I'll go ahead to pin every other part of these pieces, but without hemming gum. The hemming gum I use is just for the neckline. It's important you pin your fabric, your Ankara fabric, to the lining, because you don't want it to shift. You don't want the lining to become too small all of a sudden. If you don't pin it down, there's a possibility that you will get it wrong. So I've gone ahead to sew it. I'm just trimming off the excess allowance. This is also very important if you want your outfit to come out perfect. I also went ahead to trim off the neck, and I'm also notching the neck so it's going to be relaxed. Then I went ahead to turn out the fabric and then to iron it, because ironing is going to give you that perfect look. If you don't iron your in the process of sewing, there's a possibility that you will not get the best look of your dress or whatever you are sewing. After I've gone ahead to iron the piece, if you notice, I did not sew the shoulder close. I will do that later when I am trying to when I'm shaping this top. But for now, that shoulder, you leave it that way. Don't close the shoulder when you are turning the pieces. I've gone ahead to do the same thing for the back. You don't need to put hemming gum for the back, just the front, the back neckline, just the front neckline. So after that, I'm going to sew the flay we cut out for the sleeve. I'm going to join that side, that part we opened. I will join it together. I'll close it, and I'll also close the lining. After sewing it together like this, I will use the lining now to turn the sleeve, the end of the sleeve. I will sew it around. Then when I'm done sewing it around, I will iron it properly. So I've gone ahead to sew it. I've also gone ahead to iron it properly. So this is how it's looking. Then the next is to fix the zipper. To fix the zipper, what I did is to come up by 4 inches. I came up by 2 inches to fix the zipper. Then I closed it by 1 inch. So the next thing now is to do, I was supposed to fix the zip immediately, but I noticed that that part was not aligning the way I wanted, so I had to cut it off, just like you are seeing. Then after trimming it to my desired shape, because I don't want that excess, I want the pointed part of that top should just be like without showing excess of the zipper. Then after trimming it just like so, I opened it up, and then I had to sew it again, but this time around I had to sew it without that joining I did first. Ahead now I'll go ahead to close it again by 2 inches. Then I'm going to shape it downwards. Can you see how it's looking now? The sewing I'm going to make now is going to be perfect, showing the V. Can you see? Unlike the first stitch we did. So after this, now the next thing that I will do is to mark out 1 inch all the way to that point we stitched earlier. I'm going to draw a straight line across now. That is where I will be sewing the invisible zipper that I got. I'll do the same for the other side too. I'm going to mark out 1 inch, then I will sew the zip to it. I've gone ahead to sew the zipper, and this is how the back is looking. Can you see how perfect it's looking? This top does not have a dart. This top does not have a dart. It's a free top. So after that, I'm going to close. I will close the shoulder just like you are saying. Sew the Ankara parts together and then sew the lining parts together. When you open it up, you are going to have a perfect seam. Can you see? This is what you are supposed to have if you sew it the right way. Now I'm going to connect the sleeve to this top, to the armhole. I'll mark the midpoint of my sleeve with a chalk, and then I'm going to sew it on the joining we made in the shoulder. That's where I will start the sewing from. But before I start sewing, again, I'm going to pin it. The importance of pin can never be overemphasized though. If you don't use pin, there is a possibility that at the end of, let's say you start sewing the your sleeve without pinning it or checking if it's okay, you are seeing that you end up seeing that one part is the sleeve is bending to one side, so you have to pin it. After pinning it out, now I'll go ahead to sew it. I've went ahead to stitch the sleeve to the armhole. Then the next thing is to shape this top. So now I will mark my bust circumference, my waist, my client's waist circumference. I will divide it by 2, mark it in one side and the other. And this top has a belt. That's what is giving it that snatched effect in the waist. It has a belt. So for me to sew the belt now, after pinning the armhole area, I'm going to have to measure 2 inches upwards. Can you see the importance of that V we did earlier? Why I came up by 2 inches then? If not, I wouldn't have had this perfect waistline that I have. So I'm coming up by 2 inch now. That is where I'll be placing the belts. So I'm going to place the belt in between the top, and then I didn't show you how to cut the belt because I believe that there's no procedure, or there's no serious procedure when it comes to cutting your belt. Fold your fabric into 2, get your desired length of your belt, get your desired width. I used 6 inches for the belt, so when you turn it into 2, I have about 5 inches now. And then I'm just pinning the belt in between. This is the back, but I'm pinning it in between the top, which is the front and the back. On that 2 inches that I came up by, that's where the belt is starting from, as you can see. So before going ahead to close this top, I'm going to again check the waistline, because my client was very particular when she was emphasizing where she wanted the crop part to stop of this top. You know, that extension is just extra. She wanted it to be on her half length, which is 18 inches. Can you see that after sewing it, it is still 18 inches? So now I've gone ahead to close the top, and then the belt is attached to it. The next thing we'll be doing is to sew the flare to this sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead now to draw gathers. I'll draw gathers. If your stitch is like very tight, you can go ahead to sew another stitch round the first one you did and draw it. So I'm going ahead to draw the gathers. I'm going to sew it round just like so. Make sure that the part you stitched, that part that has joining, is facing the part of the sleeve you shaped, please. I've gone ahead to attach the flare to the sleeve, and this is the result of the top we made. Can you see how beautiful it turned out? My client absolutely loved it. If you found this tutorial useful, kindly like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notification so you'll be notified when I upload my next video. What I learned from making this top is that I wouldn't have closed that part I did when fixing the zipper. I would have just bought an open and close zip instead of the invisible zipper that I used, because my client had to struggle to wear it. It's a free top, so there was no need for her to struggle to wear it. Thank you for watching. Bye.